Good evening. Nice to see you here. And I got to say, it's really cool when I'm getting set up and I see that you're coming into the room and saying hello to each other and stuff. Uh, Community is important. And it's nice to see that even under these kind of weird circumstances, that we can still have a sense of community here. So let's begin. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gotcha of atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. The fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. The fragrance of this incense unites us. With precepts, concentration, and insight, we offer it for all beings. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Over slightly. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, freed from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. Metta prayer. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. So I'm going to try something a little bit different tonight. Uh, you know, when we were meeting in person, we would sit for 20 minutes, and sometimes silently and sometimes guided. And silent meditation didn't seem to make much sense on video. And guided meditations, 20 minutes long, seemed a lot on video. So I kind of stopped timing them. But I got an email from somebody who wanted to know how long the meditations were because they wanted to set a timer and turn the sound off so they could meditate silently, which I totally get. I know lots of people tune me out during those meditations. So I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes, and we'll see how this goes for a few meetings, see how that works out. So the first bell you'll hear, I don't know how well you'll hear it, is the timer, and then I'll ring the other one. So ready? Take a few deep breaths. As always, let your belly be nice and soft so your lungs can fill and empty completely. And then let your breath just settle into a comfortable rhythm. And just say this phrase to yourself as you exhale. Buddha mind is free from greed. Freed from hatred. Freed from delusion. Because of the Buddha's awakening, awakening is available to all beings. May I be happy. May I be free from animosity. May I be free from stress and affliction. May I look after myself with ease. May all beings be happy. And send that thought as if you're radiating it from your heart to each of the 6 directions. Right, left, front, back, above, below. May all beings be happy. Do a scan of the body. Just bring your attention into the body. From the top of the head, down through the face, the neck, shoulders, upper chest, lower chest, belly, pelvic area, thighs, knees, shins, feet. And then back to the belly or the nostrils. Life and death are important. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. We must strive to awaken. Take heed, do not squander this life. And just sit with the breath until the bell rings. Well, that was interesting. So hello, everybody. Thank you for saying hi to me and to each other. So we'll try that a couple of weeks, see how it feels. So, of the last few weeks, I've talked in either here or Sunday mornings about things like gods and devils and heavens and hells and where those things fit in Buddhism and that kind of stuff. And there's another side to this that I want to share with you that's actually probably more important than those other things, to be honest. And the first time I ever gave a Dharma talk about this, I mean, I was aware of it, but it just hadn't occurred to me to talk about it until I was at an event at Stetson, and it was my first semester there as chaplain, I think. And so it was fairly recent. I mean, I've been there like 4 years now. But there was another chaplain there, Reverend Willie Barnes, and he gave a talk that made me think of this, the Buddhist idea of the body of the Buddha. And so and when I saw him give this talk from a different context, obviously, I thought, well, I should share this more often. And so to explain, Willie is the pastor of an AME church, African Methodist Episcopal. And I think he's in Miami now. He was transferred there some time back. So being a Christian, the basis of his talk came from that particular set of scriptures, specifically, in this case, Exodus, the Old Testament book about the Israelites escape from Egypt and search for the promised land. So I'm going to tell you the story that he told in brief, just for context about what I'm going to talk about. So the people of Israel were seeking their own land, and they were attacked by another tribe. And so their leader, Moses, told a man named Joshua to lead some men to defend them against the attackers. And meanwhile, Moses would climb up to the top of this hill overlooking where the fighting was going to be happening and take the staff of God and hold it over his head. I don't remember these stories all that well myself. Honestly, it's been a long time since I practiced that particular religion, but Moses had a staff. Staff was imbued with the power of the divine somehow. I don't remember how. So Joshua did as instructed. Moses, accompanied by 2 other men, climbed to the top of the hill, and he held up the staff. As long as Moses was holding up the staff of God over the battlefield, the Israelites were successfully holding off their attackers. But whenever he dropped their hands, they started to lose ground. Well, before long, Moses was so tired that he couldn't hold up his hands anymore. And so his companions, the 2 guys that went up on the hill with him, went and found a stone for him to sit on. And then they stood on either side of him, holding his arms up so that he could keep the staff of God up and the Israelites could continue to win this battle. And they kept this up until sunset. And with the staff of God upheld in this way, Joshua was able to fend off this attack against the Israelites. So here's what struck me about that story. Something good and important, in this case, helping the Israelites travel to the promised land, which if you see that, well, I'll get to that. This important thing, this pilgrimage, this journey to the promised land, to the Pure Land, was accomplished with helping hands from others. And so the Exodus really describes this spiritual journey, much like the story of the Buddha calling on Mother Earth to help him defeat the armies of Mara so that he can reach enlightenment. Very similar way, I think. Other people might feel differently, but that's the way I see it. So to me, anyway, it's not about a battle between armies. It's about a battle between the sacred and the profane. And so these men weren't just helping Moses out. Their hands became the hands of God, supporting the sacred and this sacred purpose. So most of the time when you think of hand of God, you probably think of some sort of supernatural force or some force of nature that lies beyond unpredictable events. I think in insurance, there's this thing, that act of God, you're insured against everything but acts of God. A meteor falling on your house or whatever. When I think of the hand of God, I always think of this Monty Python, animation bit where the hand comes down from above and squashes somebody. But, anyway, that's just my mind. But you could say that goodness and kindness and love and things like that, when they happen as a result of spiritual search, are the hand of God, or whatever you decide to call divinity. So Willie was pointing out that the presence of God is manifested in the actions of the faithful. So here's why I thought about Buddhism when he told this story. We have this similar idea that relates to the body of the Buddha. We actually consider the Buddha to have three different bodies that appear in different forms. There's the historic body, a blissful body, and a Dharma body. And the Dharma body, the living presence of the Buddha, depends on us for its existence. So, as you probably know, there was a human being named Gautama who lived in northern India and spent several years doing religious practices and ultimately achieved enlightenment, became the Buddha, and then taught others so that his spiritual path is available to us today. So that's the historical Buddha who found the thing that we want to find and therefore made it possible for us to awaken, as I referred to in the guided meditation. So that body, the body of the human being that lived 2,500 years ago, is called the Nirmanakaya. You don't have to remember any of this stuff, so don't worry about that. But the word kaya means body in both Sanskrit and Pali. So the Nirmanakaya is the physical body of the historic Buddha. So the second body is the Sambhogakaya. This is the body that a bodhisattva has when he or she has completed their vows and become a Buddha themselves. So let me explain this a little bit. Sometime back, I talked about the Lotus Sutra, and I talked about how the Buddha appears and all this stuff happens that couldn't really happen in reality, right? So there are beings in Buddhist scripture that are not historical, or probably not historical, but who embody certain principles. And these beings, mythical or otherwise, or however you want to call them, made vows to become Buddhas in order to help others achieve enlightenment. That's the story behind them. So probably the best known of these is Amitabha Buddha. He was a king who became a follower of a Buddha. He vowed to become a Buddha himself and create a pure land where anyone who called his name with sincerity could be reborn and in a pure land. And Pure Land is a place where, first of all, it's very blissful. You live in complete purity. There's no clinging or anything. So you're very, very happy. And his Pure Land was constructed in a way that the birds in the trees were not birds because of any past negative karma that caused them to be animals. They were manifestations of Buddha mind, and they existed to sing the Dharma. And the wind going through the leaves of the trees would whisper the Dharma, and so on. So you were inevitably bound for nirvana if you were reborn there. So the word Sambhogakaya refers to basically a body of bliss. If you've ever meditated and achieved the blissful jhana, this is basically the way bodies manifest out of that. They don't experience suffering. They're subtle bodies of limitless form who can teach others in various ways. So they're manifested in Pure Lands, which are themselves creations made from the Buddha's minds. So you can live in their Pure Land with them if you're able to let go of your ego and sincerely abandon yourself to love and compassion. So this is not just metaphorical. With advanced practice, people can experience awareness of these bodies during meditation and things like that. Who's to say there's not? Christianity and other religions have this too, but think about like the Catholic saints. There are people who pray to them, and you might say that if you call on a saint, you're calling on help from its Sambhogakaya, basically. If you wanted to try to put them in, some Christian's going to hear this and email me and read my beads, but I think if you tried to equalize the terms, I think that's what you'd be talking about. So you're really calling on the subtle body made of the saint's compassion or his or her love, the protectiveness, and so on. And some Christians feel the presence of these saints very strongly, the way some Buddhists feel very connected to Amitabha or Avalokiteshvara. So this leaves then the third body of the Buddha, the Dharmakaya. And this is the body of the Dharma. And when we use that word Dharma, we often mean the teaching of the Buddha, but it has different meanings in different contexts. It's the teachings, but it's also the realization of those teachings. And truth, in kind of the absolute sense, is Dharma. So the Dharma body is the embodiment of truth itself. This is what we mean when we say the inconceivable body of the Buddha, the reality of enlightenment out of which Buddhas arise and to which they return. So the physical historical Buddha was actually a manifestation of the Dharmakaya, the embodiment of truth, because he realized and taught awakening and made it possible to others. So in other words, the Sakyamuni Buddha didn't invent enlightenment. It was there, and he actually arose out of it. That's what makes it possible for us to have Buddhas. That's kind of the theory here. So there's a discourse where the Buddha visits a man who's very ill, about to die, and the Buddha asks him if he has any regrets, and he says yes. He wished he had wanted to see the Buddha for a long time, but he was unable to do so, and he regretted not seeing him sooner. And the Buddha comforts him. He says, "Enough. Don't dwell on that. Says, why do you want to see this body? Whoever sees the Dharma sees me. Whoever sees me sees the Dharma." So that's from the Pali Canon. That's not some later evolved Mahayana, airy-fairy stuff. I mean, the Buddha said this himself. If you see the Dharma, you see me. If you see me, you see the Dharma. So all things arise from something. Nothing originates on its own. People who become Buddhas have to arise out of something too. And the possibility of awakening arises out of truth, wisdom, that sort of deep prajna wisdom, which is reality itself. And that body, the body of truth, is present in all beings. We talk about Buddha nature. Buddha nature is everywhere. It's in all beings. And that's the seed of enlightenment. Exists because of that. So while you would say that the historical body of the Buddha was real in the conventional sense that I'm real, then none of them are in any sense real in an absolute sense. They're basically tools the mind uses to approach reality, but not reality itself. Because the Buddha's dead, right? Siddhartha Gautama died. But all three are available to the practitioner. There was a Zen master once said, the pure light of your own heart at this instant is the Dharmakaya Buddha. This trinity of the Buddha's body is none other than here before your eyes, listening to me teaching the Dharma. So this is important. Your practice, you're listening to the Dharma and putting the Dharma into practice and chanting and lighting incense and stuff and really meaning it. That is the body of the Buddha. That's the Dharmakaya. So how do you get that into your life? How do you realize that? And when I started thinking about this question, it reminded me of a story that I heard once. And I've told this story at White Sands before. So if you've heard it before, I'm sorry. You have to listen to it again. There was a very heavy storm, and there was a dam about to burst under the weight of the rising water. And so the massive lake that the dam contained began to be released. There was a little town downstream that was going to certainly flood. And so the emergency management people issued a warning to evacuate the town, and volunteers started going around the neighborhoods, helping people out, making sure everybody could get away. So this volunteer came to his house where old Mr. Jones lived, and urged him to pack up what he needed and get going. Well, Mr. Jones was a devoutly religious man. And he said, I'm not worried about it. God will look out for me. The neighbor tried and tried and tried, but he couldn't convince Mr. Jones to pack up his stuff and leave. Well, the dam began to fail, and water started to overflow the riverbanks. And police officers were going around looking for people that needed help evacuating. And so a patrol car came down the street where Mr. Jones lived. So I'm sitting out on his front porch. And the car stopped, and the officer came up to him and said, You got to get out of here. You got to leave. Do you need help? I can help you. I'm not worried. God will look out for me. And the officer begged and pleaded, but he couldn't force him. And so eventually he gave up and went on to help people who wanted to be helped. Well, before long, the streets were flooded. Water was threatening the homes, rising up over everybody's yards and stuff. And this motorboat came puttering down the middle of the street where Mr. Jones lived. And Mr. Jones was sitting on his front porch, a little bit higher up this time. And so the man driving the boat pulled up and he said, Look, get in the boat. Come on, let's get out of here. Grab whatever you got to have, but let's go now. Mr. Jones said, I'm not worried about this. He said, God's going to look out for me. So the guy in the boat took off to help people who wanted to be helped and, just left him there. So by the time the helicopter flew over town, Mr. Jones was sitting on his roof. And the rescuers in the helicopter dropped a line down to him. And they called down and said, get on the road, come up. But he was steadfast. He said, I'm not worried. God's going to take care of me. Well, he drowned. And so he arrived at the gates of heaven and he asked to see God. He said, being such a devout man, he was granted an audience almost immediately. And when he finally was face to face with God, he said, Lord, all my life I've been faithful. He says, I've never worried. You would always look out for me. And yet here I am, drowned in the flood. And God said, look, Jones, I sent you a neighbor, a police car, a boat, and a helicopter. What more do you want? So that's a joke, obviously. But, there's people who are like that. I had an association with one, and I was talking way back. He wanted to do something, and I said, look, man, I'm watching out for the COVID thing, and I'm not worried about it. God's going to take care of me. It's like, well, maybe God takes care of you by having people who can figure out what you need to do to stay safe and not get infected. Maybe you should listen to the people who are manifestations on this earth of wisdom, at least with regards to this, follow their instruction. Anyway, so, in Buddhism, I mentioned the Bodhisattva. So one of those is Avalokiteshvara. And Avalokiteshvara is pretty well known. I started to say she. Avalokiteshvara manifests in different genders, depending kind of on which language you're speaking, which culture you're talking about. Basically, the name means the one who hears the cries of the world. And so in Sanskrit, that's a masculine term. In Chinese, it's feminine. So if you go to White Sands, Avalokiteshvara is referred to as Mother Avalokiteshvara. Vietnamese name is Quan Am, Chinese Kuan Yin, or something along those lines, depending on what dialect. So the thing to realize about Avalokiteshvara is that he or she is the embodiment of compassion. The ability of compassion to, number one, support you through the actions of people around you who are helping you in the world that you live in, that creates the things that you need, like food and air to breathe and all that kind of stuff. But also the ability of compassion manifesting in you to awaken you. So in iconography, sometimes Avalokiteshvara is depicted as having 1,000 arms and 1,000 eyes, so that he can hear the cries of the world. That's what the name actually means. It's the one who hears the cries of the world or hears the world sounds. So I can see all the suffering, and I have enough hands to reach out to be available to anyone who needs a hand. So how is Avalokiteshvara manifested? Well, people like you, when you do something helpful for somebody, you know, compassion is embodied in the countless times every day that someone sees another person suffering and offers them a kindness. And for Buddhism to have a real effect on our minds and world, we have to live it. We have to embody the teachings in our actions. And that means our bodies become the Dharmakaya, the expression of truth as it appears in the world. The truth is actually pretty simple. It's the manifestation of love. That's really what it is, the manifestation of love. That's across many, many different religions. So how do we understand this? We look for this truth in everything, even situations we don't like. Anything that can help us awaken has Buddha nature. So adversity is an opportunity to awaken. Sometimes it's a meditation. Sometimes it's something pleasant, like the way a shaft of light enters the window in the morning. Sometimes it's something unpleasant, dealing with a difficult person at work or something like that, and seeing that as an opportunity to be compassionate. So most important, we can be helpful, become the embodiment of truth, justice, kindness, helping others do good, letting our actions become the body of the Dharma. So that's how, working together, we can live an enlightened life. And I think, rather than waiting around for, bolts of light from the heavens to enlighten us, live an enlightened life, and that will do it. So I hope that this was interesting and in some way helpful to you in your practice. And let me know how you felt about the way the meditation went. We'll get a couple more weeks anyway. Let's see how we get used to it. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Zoom. If you're coming to those, make sure you use the new link. Change those every couple of months for security reasons. So make sure you use the one that just went out. If you didn't get it, email me. I'll send it to you. And I'm back at White Sands this Sunday morning. So I will see you soon. Have a great evening. You're welcome, Jeff.